We are transmitting live from San Diego, California, from the studios of KPBS on the campus of San Diego State University. Greetings to our participants in Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and other countries in Latin America. We would also like to welcome our distinguished friends at the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C. And we would like to thank once again Telecomunicaciones de Mexico and PanamSat for their satellite linkage services, which allow us to reach all of you through the wonders of telecommunications. Welcome to the program Organizational Change, the Key to Success, the third video conference in our 1995 Management Systems for the 21st Century series. My name is Armando Osorio, and I will be your moderator for this video conference. We would like to remind the coordinators at each receive site to collect the attendance sheets for your site and return them to the International Training Center as soon as possible. At this time, you should also return to us a list of names of participants interested in obtaining the certificate or diploma for this series of programs. This program is composed of 2 presentation modules and 2 question and answer sessions. We look forward to your live interaction, as this interaction and participation is a very important element in what we are trying to accomplish together. Constant change is a reality which permeates our economic, political, and social environments. The process of globalization will make this phenomenon increasingly intense in the years ahead, forcing us to work in a new business environment characterized by a level of competition never before experienced. Under these circumstances, the key to the success of our organizations will be their adaptability and flexibility for permanent organizational change. Our speaker today will describe the essential elements needed to achieve this adaptability. He will explain what organizations can do now to avoid falling behind with strategies, products, and services that do not meet the expectations of value of our increasingly sophisticated and demanding clients. The changing nature of our businesses forces us to seek ways to continuously create success. It will not be enough anymore to win a commercial battle with one specific product or service, especially if such an effort limits our overall adaptability. Our speaker will explain how we must instead strive toward the implementation of a formal program of organizational change at all levels, which will allow us to compete favorably and possibly to win most business battles in the future. This mandates a firm decision from management, as well as the adoption of a clear sense of commitment by all workers, so that jointly they can create that new, modern, and flexible organization that will assure them success in the 21st century. It is my pleasure to present to you today's guest and expert speaker, Dr. James Belasco, who is participating for the 3rd time in our video conference series today, who will explain all this to you. Dr. Belasco is known internationally as a consultant, professor, author, and expert in organizational change. Before joining the faculty of San Diego State University, Dr. Belasco was professor and chair at the State University of New York in Buffalo and researcher at Cornell University. He has been named Outstanding Professor 5 times during the last 6 years by San Diego State University's College of Business Administration. Dr. Belasco has been on the boards of a number of multinational firms and was president and CEO of a $13 million company that produces ink for pens. Dr. Belasco has been guest speaker and consultant for a number of firms, including Royal Dutch Shell Corporation, Heineken Beer, Folklore Aircraft, IBM, Solar Turbines, Bank of America, Ralston Purina, Great American Savings, and Armor Light. Dr. Belasco holds 2 bachelor's degrees from Cornell University. He received his master's degree in management and marketing from Hofstra University and his doctorate from Cornell University. Dr. Belasco writes a weekly column for the newspaper's San Diego Daily Transcript and the International Herald Tribune. He has written 7 books and 54 articles. His many books include the very successful Teaching the Elephant to Dance and his latest book, Flight of the Buffalo, co-written by another well-known expert, Ralph Steyer. Welcome, distinguished Dr. Belasco. Before we begin the first module, I would like to ask you the following questions. Any change implies an inherent cost and effort. When you talk about organizational change as the key element for success in modern enterprise, do you mostly mean change in organizational structure or in work processes or in the mentality of our executives or workers, or all of these combined, and why must we change?
Well, actually, it's changing everything because everything's connected. It is important to think of the organization as a system that needs to change together. In fact, I'm fond of saying that it is easier to create tomorrow than it is to change yesterday. So we must create a whole new tomorrow, both competitively as well as internally, so we can meet the challenges of smarter customers, of better competitors, and of having to move ever faster in the marketplace.
In your famous book, Flight of the Buffalo, you mentioned that the real problem is oneself when implementing change in organizations, and that also that it is easier to act as the victim and blame others, either your boss, your staff, or someone else. How can we avoid this in work environments or cultures where personal image, pride, and not making waves seem to be the predominant attributes of success?
I think change needs to begin with each and every person in the organization. Change is a fundamental personal experience. It is an emotional experience. It happens in your belly before it ever happens in your head. Therefore, change must begin with me. With me if I am a machine operator, with me if I am the managing director. Change must begin with me, my attitude, my mentality, and I need to feel that sense of urgency to be different.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Belasco. Parece que el tema de hoy va a ser muy interesante.
Thank you very much, Dr. Belasco. It seems that today's presentation will be quite interesting. Let us begin Module 1, where Dr. Belasco will talk about what is driving today's organizations to change.
It's a pleasure to be back with you again. What a last year this has been since I was here a year ago. All the changes that have taken place, but those changes are endemic to the way we live in today's global economy. We're going to talk today about what it takes to build an organization that lives through those changes, that survives those changes, and even more, that prospers in and during those changes. There is no question that we need to change. You're going to hear 4 themes today. I'd like to have you listen for these 4 themes because they will occur and occur over and over again. The first theme is that we need to know more about our customers, about who they are, what they buy, why they buy it, and how they use it. And then, in order for my organization to change, I need to change my behavior. Those are the first 2 themes. The next 2 themes are, in order to make that change in an organization happen, every member of the organization needs to have clarity over where we as an organization are going. This is the vision thing. And then each and every individual must have control over what they are doing, over how they will get to where we are going to go. Listen, if you will, to these 4 themes. They will occur over and over and over again. The fact that we have to change probably doesn't have to be talked about or underlined. The famous historian Arnold Toynbee put it best when he talked about the imperative of change in terms of challenge and response. He talks in terms of young nations that confront a certain challenge and then find a successful response. But as time passes, the nature of that challenge changes, and how well we know. The Mexico of 1994 and the challenges it confronted in 94 are very different than the challenges it confronts in 1995. The challenges that the country of Brazil now faces in 1995 are very different from the challenges that it faced in 1994. Take Brazil for just a moment, if you will. They lived for 13 years in a hyperinflation economy, and the business people in Brazil learned to adjust and adapt and meet that challenge. They developed successful responses to that challenge. Today, we have a stable economy. Today, we have a currency that is non-inflationary. Today we have a currency and we have a whole system of economics that's very different. The challenge is different. The response, therefore, must be different. What the historian Arnold Toynbee talks about in terms of nations is also true for individuals and organizations. As the challenge changes, so must our response change. There are three critical factors that drive our need to change today. We have smarter customers. We have better competitors, and things are happening faster, faster, faster. If you will, look at and turn to, in your appendix, pages 74 to 75. No American institution is as widely known across the world as the Golden Orchards of McDonald's, certainly one of the few that are so widely known. More than 5,000 locations all across the world. When you go and look at this menu and how that's changed over time, you'll see how the nature of the customer has changed dramatically. Look at, if you will, at page number 74 to 75 in your appendix. This is the menu in 1968. It's a very simple menu. It's 13 items. They're very clearly in the hamburger business. They have a very clearly single set against which or towards which they are marketing. Look, if you will, at the next set of pages, 76 to 77. And in there you'll see the menu in 1993, 25 years later, and look how different the menu is. And actually, that's not the complete menu. There actually are 149 separate menu items. It's a very complex menu. It goes after many different customer segments. In fact, there are 13 different customer segments. If you go and look at pages 78 to 79 and take a look at that, you'll see the several different segments that they go after. For instance, in the United States, McDonald's owns the kids market. 37% of all kids that eat out at least once a week eat out at their McDonald's. But McDonald's also owns the age market at the other end of the spectrum. Seniors, 41% of all people age 65 and older, they eat out at least once a week, eat at a McDonald's, eat breakfast at a McDonald's. McDonald's also owns a number of ethnic markets, and particularly on the East Coast and West Coast of the United States, they also own the parents of the kids who eat out are more health conscious, fat conscious, cholesterol conscious, and so they have a Heart-Smart market. 13 separate segments, and McDonald's has a varied menu that goes after each one of them. I was in Rio de Janeiro some time ago, and a block off Copacabana Beach, one of the most beautiful beaches in the entire world, is a McDonald's, the familiar Golden Orchards. And they serve the pretty standard McDonald's fare, except every day, every evening at 8 p.m., they turn the lights down, bring out the tablecloths and the linen, and along with their hamburgers, they also serve steak and lobster. And then beginning at 10 o'clock, every night, from 10 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning, they serve that steak and lobster and hamburgers along with samba, the dance of Rio. Because you see, they understand what their customers really want. They know what their customers want, and they are servicing those customers because the customer at Copacabana Beach wants something different than the customer in Mexico City who wants something different than the customer in Bogota. What this means for us is that we need to know individual customers better, be able to anticipate what customers really want before they tell us. We need to deliver personalized offerings, because that's really what value is to these better, more sophisticated customers. When we think about the nature of competitors, the second driving force for change, competitors are bigger, they're better, they're faster, and they tend to come from very strange places. For example, let's look at the retail business, one that touches all of us. Today's retailing business experienced significant change as a result of a whole brand new set of entrants into the marketplace. The retailing business used to be, in America at least, very simple. Department stores owned the business. As late as 1982, 49% of all retail sales went through the department store chain. 49%, virtually $1 and $2. Today, that has shrunk to 22%. And the major gainers or benefactors have been the mass merchandisers, the Walmarts and Kmarts of the world, as they have today constitute 47% of the total retail market. But in truth, the biggest competitor that's emerging today and will be even much larger tomorrow isn't even on the screen that you see right now. The biggest competitor is a small company in the U.S. called QVC and Home Shopping Network. These stores today sell us a measly 2% of the total retail sales in America. 2% of a $2 trillion business in the U.S. is a $40 billion business. They are the third largest retailer in America. They are the seventh largest retailer in the world. And when you add all the catalog sales as well, 17% of all retail sales goes from the home. So the biggest competitor today and tomorrow, rather than being the department store down the street or even the discounter in the next town, the biggest competitor is going to be the telephone and the television set. Let's look at the other side of the supply chain, if you will. Look at the consumer goods business. Now, it used to be that brands drove the business. That if you wanted cereal, you got Kellogg's. If you wanted soap, you bought Procter & Gamble. If you wanted cheese, you got Kraft. Brands drove the business. You know what the most popular brand is today? The most popular brand today in the supermarket is the private label. 21% of all supermarket sales today are private label sales. In Europe, that number is 31%. In Great Britain, that number is 27%. And do you know who the most profitable consumer goods manufacturer today is? No, it is not Philip Morris and cigarettes. And it's not Seagram's and liquor. It's a small company called Disney. You see, Disney sells $25 T-shirts and $60 sweatshirts in their chain of more than 400 retail store outlets today, growing to 1,000 before the end of this year. You go to a Disney store and watch. The foot traffic is double that of anyone else in the mall. The profit margins are triple that of any other major retailer. Why? Because they're offering something that the public wants, which is a piece of entertainment. And it's that entertainment that makes the difference. People are buying a piece of Mickey Mouse. They're buying a piece of Donald Duck. And they're taking that home with them because it's a piece of entertainment. The nature of competition has changed. I was to the General Motors test track a number of months ago and saw something that should make every steel and aluminum company across this world squirm. I saw an all-ceramic automobile. General Motors made 2,200 of these and are testing them today. They weigh less than half of what the current automobile weighs. And they, at the same volumes, could be produced for about two-thirds the cost of the current automobile. Imagine what's going to happen. As aluminum replaced steel, ceramics are going to replace aluminum in the automobile. Perhaps not this year, but in 5 years and in 10 years. That's all going to happen. Because you see, competitors today are bigger, they're faster, they're better, and they're coming from strange and different fields. The telephone and television for the retailer, Disney for the consumer goods manufacturing firms, and ceramics for the steel business. What that means is that we need to, in order to handle this changing nature of competition, focus on the few things we do best, and then to bring in and establish new types of alliances with others so we have an extended organization, to use learning as a tool to leapfrog our competition, and most importantly of all, is to stop deluding ourselves into thinking that we're doing so well because we're competing so well against our competitors, when in reality we are not even doing that, because our principal competitor is actually not even on our radar screen yet. Against this smarter customer, better competitor scenario is the fact that things are happening faster and faster and faster. If you will take a look in your appendix and look at pages 80 to 81, you will see a graphic there that talks to this very issue of how time is moving even quicker and quicker. In fact, if you go and look at, I was just talking to the president of a large money center bank in the U.S., and he called me to complain, basically. He said, you know, Jim, I spent 23 months developing this new product. I brought it out last week. It took my competitor exactly 24 hours to copy it and advertise a better price for it. It took me 23 months to develop, and I gained exactly 24 hours worth of competitive advantage. Time. Faster, faster, faster. It used to take 11 years to design an airplane. Boeing can do it in 3. It used to take 6 years to design an automobile. Honda can do it in less than 2. Time is happening faster and faster and faster. What this means is that we need to learn how to be more responsible and more responsive, to move quicker. We have to get rid of meetings and stop all the conversation and move to action. That means we need to empower our people so we can create a risk-taking environment so individuals will take the decisions, will take the actions that need to be taken. All of this means that we are presented with an opportunity, a demand, if you want, to continuously create success for our customers. To create success for our customers by doing 3 critical things. First is to discover and delight the market of one. What you buy is different than what your neighbor buys. And it's different still from what I buy. We need to discover what each one of us buys and how we can reach you and what you really want out of that purchase. The second thing is we need to break the mold in terms of our cost metrics. I remember so clearly one very warm day in Bentonville, Arkansas, back in the middle 80s. And we're huddled around this table trying to think of ways in which we can now go out and improve the efficiency of the warehouse system at Walmart. And I remember Sam Walton, the chairman of the company, reaching across the table and banging his fist on the table and saying, "Improve hell! Let's eliminate the warehouse." And in those words was the germ of the idea that has given Walmart a 6-point edge over everybody else in the distribution business. Because, in fact, that's exactly what Walmart did. They eliminated the warehouse. They now have a distribution center where rather than stocking shelves and pulling from inventory, they now cross-stock where the things, where the goods, the toothpaste and the soap suds and the electronics spend less than 6 hours inside a distribution center and then are shipped out immediately. That gives them a 6-point edge over each and every one of their competitors. that is a significant, virtually insurmountable edge in terms of price. So the second thing we need to do is we absolutely positively need to tear up the way we do business now and go back to a clean sheet of paper and say, if we started from scratch today without all of our embedded costs, what would we do differently? How would we do it today to be the most efficient? First is discover the market of one, to find who that individual customer is and then how to reach that individual customer. Secondly, then, is to break out of the box, step out of our current paradigm, and the only way that's ever going to happen is if we learn how to design an organization that truly leverages knowledge, that values knowledge as opposed to having one that values seniority or loyalty, which is what is commonly true all across the Americas today. You see, we are presented with an opportunity. Our opportunity is to continuously create success. We are presented with a brand new, spankingly clean canvas. And with the paint called knowledge, we have the opportunity to create success for ourselves and our customers. The first thing we need to do is to create the new competitive landscape, the backdrop, if you like, once again using knowledge. What I've discovered is there are 4 critical questions that help us create that new competitive landscape. The first couple ask us to really think about the competitive landscape in a macro basis. What do we really want to have so that we tilt the playing field in our direction, so that we create an uneven, unlevel playing field which benefits us. The second question then asks us to describe the customers we really want to have over the next 3 to 5 years. Not the ones we have today, but the customers we want to have in the future. And then to go back and ask, what are those customers going to buy from us? And why will they rather buy from us than buy from a competitor? And then lastly, of course, to then answer, if you like, the 64 million peso question of what do we need to do in order to make that happen? All of this, these 4 questions help us to think strategically about the competitive landscape we want to create in the future. When we then go back and look at how we create an organization, that'll help us do that. Create an organization that is focused on the customer, that is based upon knowledge, and that really drives accountability. And once again, we're going to use the paint of knowledge to make all of this happen. All of this talks to the issue of empowerment. Empowerment is people who really want to be responsible for their performance. See, empowerment isn't something that comes from the top down. It isn't something that gets delegated from someone on high. Empowerment does not come from the top down. It must come from the inside out. The picture of empowerment I paint for you, ladies and gentlemen, is an individual who grabs you by the throat and wrestles you to the ground and demands the responsibilities they need in order to do the job they know they must do for their customers. Empowerment comes from inside and not from outside. The second thing about empowerment is it is not autonomy. Empowerment is not the right to show up at 10 o'clock and leave at 1 o'clock. Empowerment is always, always, always focused on customers. It's always, always, always doing the right thing for your customers. And then the third thing that empowerment is not, it is not abdication. I got a telephone call after I published the book, Flight of the Buffalo, from someone who said, Jim, I've always believed in this principle of empowerment. And in fact, I've believed it and I've lived it, I've practiced it. And when I read your book, I got so enthusiastic, I got encouraged to go out and do it some more. So I took the next step. I have a 30,000 square foot string of retail stores. And so I called in all my people and I said, okay, from now on, people, you're empowered. From now on, you're empowered to buy merchandise. You're empowered to go out there and decide the hours you want to work. You're empowered to run this business as if it were your own. And I went back to my office and I watched. And I watched, he said. And I watched. And I watched my business. That was a good business. Drown in red ink. I watched sales go through the floor as the people bought what they wanted to buy, not what the customers wanted to buy. And I watched the expenses go through the roof as people only worked the hours they wanted to work, not the hours that the customers wanted to shop. He called us at Belasco. Your ideas about empowerment, they're wrong. I said, Tom, whether my ideas about empowerment are right or wrong is not the subject of this telephone call. What is the subject of this telephone call is that your execution of those ideas is what's wrong. Because you see, Tom, you didn't empower anybody. You abdicated your responsibility. The closest words to empowerment are accountability. The next closest word is responsibility. And then all of that could be subsumed under the word called ownership. Empowerment is being accountable for your own behavior and your own actions. Let me tell you one thing that empowerment absolutely is. Empowerment always requires two things. It always requires, number one, is capability. People need to have the skill and the knowledge that goes with that skill. For example, I don't think I am going to empower some 6-year-old to conduct open heart surgery on me. I'm sorry. That 6-year-old has neither the skill nor the knowledge to do the job right. If someone is going to take a scalpel to my chest, I want someone who has lots of skill and lots of knowledge. And the same is true whether someone is representing you in a business or operating on your heart. It's the same thing. The second important C is the C of consequences. People need to understand that there's consequences to empowerment. I am raising a 15-year-old grandson. His name is Sean. Sean wants very much to drive. In California, you can get a learner's permit at 15 and a half, and you can drive a car at 16. He wants to take driver's ed. He keeps asking me, Dad, when can I learn how to drive the car? And I tell him, Sean, you can drive the car as the minute after you become financially responsible for the consequences of your driving that car. Anything that can happen while you're in that car or that you could do with that car to somebody or something else. When you become financially responsible, Sean, you can drive the car. The same is true about empowerment in an organization. Empowerment means that people understand that there's a consequence to their decision. Empowerment is not free. Empowerment must, in order for empowerment to really work, you must have both capability, the skill and the knowledge, and then you must be willing to stand the consequences. Take both the roses and the bricks. The roses when it works, and the bricks when it doesn't. This is probably a good place to stop, see if you have any questions, and then we'll come back and do a second half to talk about building the organization to make all of this truly happen.
Comenzamos